There was an event on January 1st, 2026 that could possibly have a negative effect on the RV industry and the RV community. I didn't say it will, I said it could. And when I tell you what it is, it might actually surprise you because it's not something that has made me mad, it's actually made me more concerned. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, John Levingston, aka the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. Now, I want to tell you when I talk about this event a little bit later in the podcast, it's not something personal. I want to start with that because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to like, what are you talking about? You're just taking things personally. Believe me, when you hear me out fully about it, you're going to go, oh, that kind of makes sense. Because it's not something that may have an immediate impact, but I think it will slowly, over the course of the entire year, have a major impact on, we'll just say, the dealership, the manufacturer, and the consumer. But first, we need to get to a couple pieces of news. And this is going to be real quick because there's a couple articles that RVBusiness.com released. Two of them are really good, and one of them is just a propaganda machine. And I'm going to go over the propaganda machine first because one of the things that I've noticed over the years is RVBusiness.com and a lot of RV influencers are big cheerleaders for the industry, pumping out propaganda. And then you have the other side of the world, which is all the Armageddon people who depend on a paycheck to have negative stories about the RV industry. So it's so weird how that all ends up. And I'm trying to be here in the middle. It's crazy. Okay, so I will try to link this in the description box below over the next couple of days. So if you don't see it, you can also go on RVBusiness.com and look up these articles themselves. I'm not going to read the entire article. That'll take hours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first two paragraphs because they're the most important. And then you guys can read the rest of it if you guys like to, okay? It says, across the travel and housing landscape, a noticeable shift is taking place in how people think about recreational vehicles. Increasingly, buyers are moving away from large motorhomes and towards smaller garageable RVs that better align with modern housing patterns, cost considerations, and everyday usability. This is true to a point, and I'm going to get to that in a minute because this thing starts getting off track into a propaganda piece real quick. Industry observers note reoccurring ownership pattern. Many RV buyers initially choose large motorhomes drawn by interior space and amenities, only to downsize later after experiencing storage challenges, operating costs, and limited day-to-day practicality. In contrast, compact and micro Class B camper vans are now being selected earlier in the ownership journey as buyers prioritize flexibility and long-term usability. Hold on. Sorry, got a cough. A key driver behind this shift is total cost of ownership. Pardon me. While purchase price often dominates buying decisions, long-term expenses such as fuel consumption, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, and storage play a significant role. Larger RVs frequently require off-site storage, incur higher operating costs, and see limited annual use factors that can significantly increase cost per mile traveled. Okay, you guys can read the rest if you guys like. Okay, you probably wonder why I'm calling bull crap on this. Well, I'm calling bull crap because this is completely out of context. Okay, first off, when you actually look and listen to what it says, garageable RVs, Class B motorhome vans are not garageable. Most of them are too tall to fit into a garage. Let's start with that. Number two is a lot of them, probably I'd say more than half of them, are too long to fit in a garage. So when they refer to garageable RVs, you're also talking about teardrops, A-frames, stuff that collapses. You're talking about these new aged outdoor overland style travel trailers that may have a pop tent on the top, outside kitchen. They're short enough, light enough for most of your electric vehicles and your SUVs to tow. So when they say garageable RVs at the beginning, it's like a hook to try to go, oh, camper vans still represent single-digit percentage of motorhomes sold within the United States of America as new. In a lot of cases, a good, decently built, decently put together Class B motorhome still costs as much or more than an entry-level Class A or a mid-level Class C motorhome. You could still buy a 24-foot Class C motorhome for less money than a camper van. And they're going to be around the same size, 22, 23, 24 feet, depending on what chassis you get. Are there 19-foot chassis? Sure. But go inside of one and go tell me if you're able to go off the grid for several days in that coach, especially if you like to shower, especially if you have rainstorms, especially if you want to have things stored in the coach, especially if you want any kind of organization. You got to realize that a lot of van life influencers are BS artists. They're the best salespeople for the industry that live and die in Holiday Inn hotels. Okay, my grandfather, God rest his soul, loved the man. He actually has owned every type of coach. His last one was a Road Trek motorhome on a Chevy V6 gas motor. It got as good a gas mileage when he filled up the water, filled up the camper van. It got just as much fuel economy as his V10, old V10 Ford pickup truck. So what you're saving in fuel is not as much as you think. It doesn't. We actually did the math one day. So to tell everybody it's cost per mile, you haven't even factored in the fact that you haven't loaded it yet. You're basing the cost per mile on what the manufacturer of the chassis says miles per gallon it gets, but that miles per gallon, whether it's a diesel Mercedes, a Ford Transit, whatever it may be, is based on an empty cargo van. They didn't build the RV on top yet. So by the time you put the weight on the actual chassis, your payload probably looks ridiculous. I bet you if you actually looked at the payload of a camper van, you'd throw up, because by the time the manufacturer puts all the stuff in, you're like, holy crap, as soon as I sit two people and have a soda in the thing, before I even load anything, I'm overweight. So you're telling me an overweight camper van is going to get better miles per gallon than a Class C motorhome? Possibly. Is it going to be such a dramatic difference? Probably not. Now, I've heard of people, in fairness, I have heard of people who have had like a Mercedes Winnebago View on a Mercedes chassis that have gotten 13, 14 miles per gallon, while when they were in like a Jayco motorhome, Class C Ford V10, they were only getting 9. So I understand there is that difference. But the reality is there is a influx of so much camper van inventory because everybody tripled down on it. It's one of the reasons why I have said over the last 7-8 months that there isn't going to be enough inventory for the basic everyday RVer that's looking for a 24-foot trailer or a 30-foot fifth wheel, because too many of the manufacturers have gotten stupid and have overbuilt these luxury Class B motorhomes, these luxury 45-foot fifth wheels, because everybody doesn't pay attention to the market. They pay attention to, well, we can make a whole lot more profit on that Coachman Beyond or that Storyteller or that whatever McBopper. You can make more money. And that's how they look at it. But how many people are really going to buy a $250, $1,000 camper van to go out on 4 or 5 trips a year. You're not going to use it as a daily driver. Now, there are people that would rather have the camper van because there are people that like to go out and use it for travel baseball. It's their own private bathroom. Look, there are more uses for a camper van. So in the defense of this article, there are more uses for a camper van than there is a Class C motorhome. Okay, and what I mean by that is you got a local Little League game, a local AAU game, a local football, junior football game. You could take the motorhome with you with all the kids and all the trimmings, have a place to cook your food, have a bathroom, have a place to sit and rest, have an air conditioner with a generator or a solar system or whatever you got the setup on. So there are more uses for that motorhome than there is on a Class C. But unless and if I remember right, if you actually do the math, unless you use that thing 200 days a year, and if I remember right, the turnaround time, and again, you'll have to forget, there's a guy who did the math on this. If I remember correctly, it's like you had to drive 60 miles a day for 200 days round trips. That's 120 miles a day for 15 years in order for it to catch up to the cost of a Class C motorhome that somebody uses 4 to 5 times a year that only gets like 8 or 9 miles to a gallon. Okay, you have to look at the other thing. Now, if it's simply, and that's why I say it's single-digit percentage of the RV market, and they're just tripling and doubling down. So this is all baloney and malarkey. It really is. This is a propaganda piece. It took information about other parts of the RV industry, including truck campers, and they filtered it into this. Well, look at this, guys. So let's get everybody to go bail us out of all our Class B motorhome overbuilding. Now, will there be a lot of Class B motorhomes sold in 2026 and 2027? Yes. Is a growing trend in the industry? Yes. Is it going to overtake the basic Class C and Class A motorhome? No. Are there people that downsize as they get older, as their needs shrink because they don't have large families anymore? Abso-freaking-lutely, okay? I'm telling you right now, abso-freaking-lutely. Okay, moving on, the other piece of news, and then we're going to get into the event, okay, is senators call on Trump admin to pause hikes in park fees. Now, I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I'm going to tell you that it just seems like we're getting more political inside the RV media world, where we are allowing quotes from senators the day before an event happens, so that way they can be on the campaign trail screaming that they were against the criminal Trump administration or the criminal Biden administration. I mean, I've noticed this has become more and more common because we're talking about the Department of Interior raising prices on people that are non-citizens, and that's discriminatory. Now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Then if they're discriminatory, then Knott's Berry Farm is discriminatory. Disney World's discriminatory. So these liberal companies are discriminatory because they charge more for out-of-state visitors in most cases than they do the people that live in the state they're located. But see, they're not being discriminatory. So Disneyland in Southern California, even though they charge California residents less money, it's because California residents carry that park through the slow season until tourists start arriving again. So they give a discount on things to people that are Southern California residents that go 20 times a year, rather than the guy that lives in Phoenix, Arizona, that flies in once a year, maybe once every 3 years, and goes and visits Disneyland. So Disney is not being discriminatory. Disney's being a smart business person to try to attract people to come to the thing and spend money on a daily basis so that way they could be profitable, right? Okay. In this case, it's the same thing. You got somebody that comes in to go look at 5 national parks that lives in Germany, has no intention of living here, just came here for 3 months to travel and see all the national parks. maximize the profit for the state federal government. So that way we can pay less taxes and actually take care of our parks properly. You know, citizens get an $80 pass, which I think is ridiculous anyway. I think that's way too much money for an annual pass. Check my microphone. Good. So I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments on that. Okay, now to the event. Okay. The event I'm going to announce, and please, buddy, I know when I talk about this, you might start to get offended because I know he will, but listen to it all the way before you get offended, okay? So Matt's RV Reviews left General RV and is now going to go and be with Motorhome Specialist, which is a part of Blue Compass. Now for Matt, personally, I think this is a really cool thing for him. Okay, I really do. I actually very happy for him. But on the flip side of things, there are going to be consequences to this. Okay, so you have to understand that if you count how many YouTubers that promote Blue Compass on the internet, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, etc., they have on contract about a quarter of the YouTube influencers. About a quarter of them. Okay. The problem is now General RV is a corporate environment, but it's privately owned corporate environment. Now Matt's moving into a very, very highly corporatized company, even though he's probably an independent contractor more than likely, moving into a very, like, there are investors. It is on, if I remember right, it's on the stock market. Let me double check that before I open my mouth. Blue. Okay, it's privately owned, but it is a lot bigger company with a lot more tightrope about what content you can put out there. If you actually go watch a lot of the YouTubers that have converted from being basically independent on their own or through their dealership, and then you go look at when they converted to Blue Compass or they converted other major big RV retail corporations, they had to change the way they do things. They could no longer speak the way they did prior because there are rules and regulations that they don't want to be affiliated with when you say certain things about OEMs, about their manufacturer partners, about their parts partners. It's that fine-tuned line. I'm happy for Matt because I think it's more money for Matt. I think it's more exposure to the thing he's probably best at, which is the motorized part of the RV industry. He's probably argumentatively, Matt's probably our best overall walkthrough guy and educator when it comes to the luxury motorhome side of the RV industry. That's my opinion. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. But my fear is that now, and this is one reason why, whenever somebody comes up to me and says, hey, we want you to come do a segment for our brand at the manufacturing plant. Because I've been offered a couple of times to go to certain RV manufacturing plants and do like a series of videos. And I said, sure, as long as I get to do it my way. And as soon as they figure out that I'm not going to bend and do things, I'm not going to do a propaganda piece, they back out. It's the same thing with corporations. If you're not going to do solely propaganda pieces, they're more than likely isn't going to be the partnership that I would hope would end up with it. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I believe it's a tremendous opportunity for Matt. And I'm really happy for him. Extremely happy for him, because I'm pretty sure it's more money than General was offering and more access, because Motorhome Specialist is the largest and always has been the largest motorhome sales machine in all of the United States. So they carry everything and anything. So the access is just amazing. And with his talent and his abilities, I foresee nothing but good things as long as they don't interfere. And that's my fear and that's my problem. And if they end up interfering in what he does, that's going to have a cascading problem, because he's one of the few guys that isn't, and excuse my language because a lot of people are going to be offended by this word, but he isn't everybody's bitch like a lot of other corporate RV dealership YouTubers and brand ambassadors are. He doesn't stand up there and stick his face in the thing, go, I've never seen it before. Oh my God, it's so innovative. I know they've like built it for like 35 years, but I've never seen it before. Or, oh my God, they did something different this time, even though there's nothing different about it. I mean, he's not that guy. And, you know, between him and the RV Hunter, they probably are our two best YouTubers when it comes to the corporate side of the industry. They really are. And, you know, while the RV Hunter is a lot better at our short form versions, like our Instagram Reels, our TikToks, and our YouTube Shorts, Matt's probably our best long form guy. And I just don't want to see anything like that happen, because it would be an absolute disaster. Okay. Now, last thing I want to cover is they're talking about, I'm going to get into this right here. And this actually has to do with, give me 1 second here. There we go. This has to do with Warren Buffett. Okay. So I don't know if a lot of you guys know this or not, but Warren Buffett actually technically owns Forest River Industries. It's under the Berkshire Hathaway company. So Warren Buffett's always owned Forest River one way or the other. Okay. You know, Pete Legal sold it to him a long time ago. Pete stayed as president and ran the operation. Now Doug Getter does it, right? So we're in a place where Forest River has purchased other companies beneath its an umbrella. Where you talk about Primetime RV or East to West, that was started by Pete's daughter Lisa, or you've got you know, Coachman, MRT. You know, you had all these companies that Forest River absorbed or started anew as a separate division, but they're also owned by Berkshire Hathaway. So there's a lot of concern that has been spreading through different blogs and different videos that are talking about not just Forest River and the boat side, the RV side, the dump trailer side, but talking about overall all the companies. And it's a lot like the Camping World situation, where Warren Buffett, the successor to Warren, doesn't look like they're up to the task. Now, time will only tell. Just like Camping World's succession plan away from Marcus Lemonis, we're like, that's going to go downhill quick. That's going to turn into, excuse my language, but that's going to turn into a shit show real quick, real fast. And time will tell if there will be a recovery in it. But you're starting to see a lot of these CEOs and these big major corporation CEOs are starting to retire and back off. And I think the reason why is they see this AI bubble bursting. And if the AI bubble bursts, it's not going to be pretty. Until next time, remember that RV always stands for toolkit and sense of humor.